Dr. Jenny. How are you? This is Melinda Roy.
Hi, Melinda. I'm wonderful. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to see all the beautiful presentation, all the wonderful women at one stage sharing their valuable thoughts, stories, and inspiring with their motivational presentations. So
It's pretty
yes,
amazing.
so are you ready to
Yeah,
get in that list? Yes. So before getting into the presentation, I would like to share your introduction to the audience, who you are, your accomplishments, awards, whatever. So yes, welcome Dr. Jenny Valley on stage. So yes. So, Jenny Valley is a transformational relationship coach, licensed therapist, and author specializing in conscious relationship education. Alongside their partner, they co-founder Powerful Love, offering coaching to empower couples, particularly within queer and trans communities. With a background in couple and family therapy, Jenny's mission is to end relational suffering through accountable and loving relationships, advocating for social justice and equity. They are also a sought after speaker and consultant dedicated to personal, communal, and planetary well being. Connect with Dr. Jenny Valley on Facebook at the rate jenny.valley or visit her website www.powerfullove.com for more information. So yes,
thank you, Melinda.
thank you. Thank you so much. The stage is all yours.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody. It is such an honor to be here with you and to talk about one of my favorite subjects, relationships. I'm a bit of a relationship nerd. And in particular, how we as powerful leaders, as in particular powerful women, can create the kinds of changes that we want and may not be getting in our relationship. So let me share my screen with y'all. Hopefully you can see it. So the name of my presentation is Taking the Lead on Love, How to Effectively Influence Your Partner and Improve Your Relationship, right? Again, my name is Dr. Jenny Wallig. I am the co-founder of Powerful Love Relationships. Contact information is up here. I'll also have it on the last slide. And so I want to really leave you by the end of our presentation today with some clarity around just how powerful you are and inspire you to what's possible in your relationship and how you can be the catalyst for change in getting there. But before we jump in to the actual content, I would love to get a little bit of a read on the room. So I'm going to put a poll up in just a moment, but let me explain what I'm trying to assess from all of you. So in relationships, we find that often partners fall into kind of one or the other response when there is a problem or issue. One person may be a confronter, another person an avoider. And I want to just get a sense of how y'all land in these types or tendencies to respond. So the confronter person wants to fix it right now, likes to resolve things and finds it really difficult when things are left unresolved. Maybe the person in the relationship to bring topics or issues or needs to the table more often. Doesn't like to stop the conversation or end the conversation before it's fixed, and feels better, would rather be in a fight, in conflict, than be or feel disconnected, right? Because at least you're engaging in something. And so the confronter person tends to feel kind of abandoned or not cared about if their partner withdraws or shuts down or doesn't want to engage around something that's important. Now, you may also, be an avoider. If that doesn't fit for you, maybe you're an avoider. So the folks who tend to have fit into this category, I'll say. Um, they don't necessarily need to fix everything right now, and sometimes they don't even see a point of doing so, right? They might need a little bit more time to even understand how they feel, much less what they need or want. um, it's difficult for these folks to stay in tense conversations, and so they tend to want to avoid those conversations. They don't want to rock the boat or upset things. And while they're in those conversations, if they go too long or get too intense, avoiders may be like the type of person to shut down, walk away, take a break, hang up the phone, um, slam a door, leave in the car, right? Like just like have to get away from the situation, the conversation. So for the avoider, it feels a lot better to be disconnected and have that space to breathe than to stay engaged in a fight or conflict. And often these folks feel like even when they do try to engage, nothing they ever do is good enough. I, by the way, am a confronter. So, but I would love to see where y'all fit. So I have a little poll. Hopefully you can see it. I've not used polls on this platform before. Oh, good. Somebody voted, so it's working for somebody. So as you're taking some time to kind of think about which you are, the confronter or the avoider, I just want to name that there's not a better or a worse response. And and often what happens in our relationships actually is that the most common pairing of partners is where one person is the confronter and one person is the avoider. And what happens when you've got this kind of a pairing, this is how it is for me and my partner. What happens when you get this kind of pairing is that the more the confronter tries to address issues, solve problems, repair or fix things or make things better, the more the avoider tends to feel overwhelmed and want to withdraw or pull away. And the more the avoider wants to withdraw or pull away because they feel overwhelmed, the more like anxious or abandoned the confronter can feel. So the more that they want to maybe it comes across as nagging, maybe it comes across as being critical, maybe it comes across as raising your voice, right? But there's more of like the confrontation that comes out, the like, come on, let's fix this. And the more you do that, the more that the avoider wants to like shut down and pull away. And you get this vicious cycle. So, if that cycle that I'm describing sounds familiar to you, know that you are absolutely not alone. This is actually where most couples, when they're struggling in their relationship or with any part of their relationship, um, are getting stuck. So it looks like there's a bit of a majority of confronters. I'm going to close the poll in just a moment, but a fair few avoiders in our audience too, which is good for me to know. Again, not a good or bad thing in either direction, but it's helpful for me to know kind of who I'm talking to, and I'll speak to you both. But to get a read of who is here and listening. And honestly, it's not all that surprising that there may be more confronters in our audience today, as this is a conference speaking to women leaders. And so for some reason I find when I work with couples that women tend to fall more often in the confronter category, and men or masculine presenting folks more in the avoider category. But that's not always the case, as you can see. So thank you all for responding and letting me know kind of where you're at and who you are. I'm going to close the poll now. Hopefully you can see the answers too. Okay. So now that I have a sense of kind of where you are, let's talk about what happens when there are issues in your relationship. When you see something that you don't like, or that your partner did or didn't do, that you're upset, frustrated, maybe even hurt by, how do you respond? Right? Like, how do you make sense of it? What do you do? If you're like most people, you probably are seeing your partner as the cause of the problem, the reason that you're feeling bad, right? They didn't do something, or they said this, or they I don't know what. They're not listening. And so when you see your partner as the cause of the problem, it makes sense that you would also conclude that they are the solution, the answer to you feeling better. That if they could be different in some kind of way, then you wouldn't have this problem. You would feel better. Things would be better. And so that brings us to this position of like, how do we get our partner to change? How do we get them to be different so we can feel better? At some point, if you're a confronter, especially, you're going to probably tell them what you don't like and how you want them to change and what you need different in the relationship to feel better. If you're an avoider, you might not. You might just try to deal with it. But if you have a partner who brings something up, or at some point when you hit a capacity, it all comes out, right? If your confronter partner is like, well, I'm not happy with this, you're gonna probably at that point be like, well, I'm not happy with all of this. So how then, right? What do you find that partners respond when you tell them essentially that they've messed up, or they're not doing what you need, or that they are somehow like letting you down or disappointing you, or have hurt you? So I just want to like get a sense. If you can put it in the chat, a little bit of interaction here, as I like to not be alone on the stage. What does your partner do when you try to tell them that like they did something you don't like, that you need something different from them? How do they respond? Anybody? No? Okay, that's all right. You sit back and listen. I'm going to assume that you're answering in your head, friends. So, what I find happens, and hopefully I'm not totally alone with this, what I find happens is that your partner feels like you're pointing the finger at them, right? And when someone feels like they're getting the finger pointed at them, they respond with defensiveness, right? They either explain or justify their position. They may point the finger back at you. I wouldn't if you didn't, right? They might be getting frustrated with your neediness, or go into that place where it feels like nothing they do is ever enough. Maybe they shut down or walk away. This is especially for those of us who are confronters with an avoider. If you're an avoider and you are like pointing your finger at your partner, and they are either an avoider, they're going to do the same thing and like shut down or get defensive, or a confronter, and they're going to probably blow up and point their finger right back up at you. It doesn't matter which side you're on here. This is the process that couples do. So if you get to a point where a partner says that they will change, oftentimes it doesn't last if this is the approach we're taking, right? So if you can relate to this, just put a yes in the chat so we know that we're not alone here. What then happens is this infuriating cycle, and we're like, you want things to improve, but they're not getting better, and so you find yourself having the same conversations, the same conflicts again and again, like this carousel that you can't get off of. And if you go around enough times, your relationship starts to get worse. It goes on what I call like a relationship doom spiral. But I want, like the point of this conversation today is to give you this just one really key paradigm shift that is going to help you more effectively influence your partner and actually improve your relationship. Sound good? I hope so, because that's why we're here. Before I get into that and share the shift, though, I want to tell us just a little bit about my story. I feel like my life has been a journey of relationships. I've been kind of obsessed with relationships my whole life. Got a master's and PhD in couple and family therapy, went into private practice, opened a group practice. Now I moved on to relationship coaching. On top of all of that, I identify as queer, non-binary, and polyamorous, which add layers of complexity to my relationship experience. But the truth is that like none of my extensive relationship history or studies had prepared me for my journey with my soulmate and now partner, Calvin, right? And then there was Calvin. So I hope you will excuse the profanity in this image, but it is just such a good representation of the energy between us back in the day, right? I just wanted to take a nice picture of us in this cool tree, and he would be goofy, and then I'd get annoyed, and then he'd be upset because I was annoyed and so serious, and then I'd be upset because he didn't care about my feelings, and then it would probably ruin the whole day, right? So our relationship was really tough despite having all of this education and experience and being actually pretty good helping people with their relationships. And I couldn't understand why I couldn't figure it out. And our solution, kind of again and again, honestly, was to break up. But I got tired of doing that because I knew I really wanted to be with him. And what happened was, fortunately, actually, Cal hit this like dark night of the soul chapter of his life where he couldn't give me what I needed. He couldn't participate in the relationship. I know I deserved more. He knew I deserved more. He just didn't have it in him. He was in survival mode. And what I realized is if I wanted to stay in this relationship, I had to be the one to make it better. Because he couldn't, it's not that he didn't want to, he couldn't put in the time and energy and attention that our relationship needed. So when I decided that I was going to become the one, really I was going to take the lead in my relationship, I started to become more conscious and intentional about how I was going about this whole relationship business. And that is when like this complete transformation happened. Now we are get to experience this next level love, right? We went through from terrible to incredible. And because of that, we started our powerful love relationship coaching business together so we could help other couples create accelerated healing, growth, and transformation. But we know that it's not just the couple that needs to be present, that this kind of transformation can happen when one person takes the lead. And that is the single shift that changes everything, my friends. It's this: you have the power to change what's not working in your relationship. No, you can't force your partner to change. You can't control them. Yes, your partner likely has legitimate behavior that needs to be different for you to feel happier and more fulfilled. But here's two things I want you to consider, okay? One, if things getting better is dependent on what your partner does, you're giving your power away, right? Like your happiness, your well being then depends on what they do or don't do, which you don't have any real control over. And two, telling your partner that they're the problem and what you need differently, and thus, like, it's their responsibility to be the solution, doesn't work. I mean, how well does it work for you, right? Like, if you're getting the finger pointed at you, how open are you usually to changing and receiving that information? So there's good news here because in science, this truth that it only takes one person to change a relationship is part of something called systems theory. And it recognizes that when one part of any system changes, the whole system must also change and adapt. You and your partner are a system, right? So when you change, your partner will change too, as long as they're staying a part of the system, right? They will change, and it works like clockwork. So you can think of it this way: relationships are like a dance. And if you and your relationship are, if you and your partner are in a dance that you're not super happy with, you want the dance to be better, you want it to be a next level dancing, what are your options, right? You can get your partner to try to change. Like, come on, learn a new dance, like dance differently, dance better. Or you could stop dancing with them. Like, if you're not going to change the dance, I can't keep dancing with you. Are those the only options? No. A lot of people go to like try to convince their partner to go learn a new dance together. Like, we're having trouble. I want the dance to be better. Let's go both learn how to do better dancing. Okay. That would be ideal. But what if your partner doesn't want to? A lot of partners don't. They're like, I'm good with this dance. I don't think we really have a problem. It's fine. This is what I know. I'm comfortable. I don't want to go learn more. Okay. So what are your options then? You just accept it or you leave. Those are the options most people consider. But there's this other option, which is you going out and taking dancing lessons, learning some new dance steps, and coming back into the dance with your partner and taking the lead in the dance. Now, you may get some pushback, like, what are you doing? Why are you dancing weird? You might step on your toe on each other's toes a bit more. And as long as you two are still dancing together and you stay in your leadership and power, their moves will change. And before you know it, they have also learned this dance so well that they too can lead. And they want to, because the new, like, leveled up dance that you're doing is easier and more fun and more fulfilling than the previous one. Right? So what you're going to show them how great this is, and they're not going to want to go back. Then the work that my partner and I do, we call this idea empowered accountability. And empowered accountability is the foundational framework, tool, and skill set that we help partners to master. Defined, empowered accountability is the skill of recognizing and applying your power and responsibility to both affect and account for the experiences of your life. Now, I know that there's a lot in there, but in short, empowered accountability is knowing how to take the lead in your relationship and taking responsibility for your part in the dance. Empowered accountability answers the question, wait, hang on. Actually, I want you to write this down. So find something to write with, okay? Because if you take nothing else from this presentation, I want it to be this. Ready? Okay, lean in, listen up. Empowered accountability answers the question, how can I respond in a way that is most likely to result in the experience I want to have? Okay, that is the question, right? What's the next move that you could make that is going to be more likely to bring you closer to what you desire? A happy, loving, connected, fulfilling relationship. Listen, it seems really simple, but the answer to that question can be nuanced and unclear. Still, when you get good at this one shift, at slowing down and being conscious, like, I'm not happy with this. Like, what response can I have that's most likely to get what I want, to get me closer to the connection, the love, the changes, right? That is how you take the power back and transform both your relationship and your life. Now, I want to do a little disclaimer here because sometimes when I talk about empowered accountability, especially for folks who've had a trauma history or been in abusive relationships, they start to get worried about talking about, taking accountability or responsibility for how the relationship goes. And that's not what empowered accountability is, right? That's the empowered part. I'm not just talking about accountability. I'm talking about empowered. You're stepping into your power. You are in a position of power. And the pillars of this idea are love, respect, and critical consciousness, right? It's not about blame, shame, or guilt. That's not loving of yourself, and it's never true. It is definitely not an excuse for harmful behavior. But it considers the question, what response takes me to what I want? And the loving answer to that might include things like holding your partner accountable, setting boundaries, asking for your needs to be met, and honoring and protecting yourself, right? So this nuance is in how you do those things, right? How do I express my needs in a way that's most likely to get what I want? How do I stand up for myself? What choices needed to bring me closer to what I desire? The ability to consciously choose and respond from the answers to questions like these is where your greatest power to create change lies. So really quickly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because I know I'm running low on time, but I just wanted to show you like the journey of empowered accountability. As you do your healing and shifting and learning, you're going to join with your partner in such a way that they lower their defenses and feel safer with you. You two move into connection more often instead of self-protection. And from a place of connection, you will inspire your partner to level up and become the one that you need. Now the two of you move into us against the problems, and you have this extraordinary relationship. Of course, the journey can often look like this. But if you are practicing, like, what is my part? How can I show up differently? What can I do? And you're owning that leadership, my friend, it does move in this trajectory. And it gets easier. You are already a leader in so many areas of your life. And I acknowledge that, especially as women, you probably don't want to take on yet another responsibility. It's not just, and it's not fair. I 100% agree. And I want you to hear me, dear, beautiful, powerful, successful woman. It gets easier when you do this. This is the fastest, easiest way to not having to take on so much. Shifting into empowered accountability simply means bringing greater consciousness, leadership, and empowerment to the table so you can influence your partner more effectively and intentionally from a place of love, courage, authenticity, alignment with who you most want to be. And the more you do it and the better you get at it, the less leadership you're going to need, right? Your partnership will become better, easier, happier, more fulfilling, and more balanced as you step into your own leadership and power. And that happy, easier, more balanced, more fulfilling, I imagine, is the outcome toward which you are always taking the lead to achieve. So that's what I have for you. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Otherwise, please know that I am always happy to connect, reach out, send me an email, follow me on Facebook. I post a lot of great content. Check us out on powerfullove.com, and continue to shine your light, my friends.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Jenny, for the wonderful presentation. So, we do have a question from our audience. How do you help couples create accountable and loving relationships to end relational suffering?
That is a great question. So we start honestly by sharing this shift, by letting each partner know that the changes, the getting out of suffering that they want to experience isn't going to happen by looking at your partner and telling them how they need to be different. Yeah, they need to be different, but that's their stuff. And you got to focus on your stuff. And what's really lovely when you have two partners doing the work, and we don't always, because it only takes one, but when you have both and you're doing your own part to learn a new dance, and really become more conscious about love. Like we're not taught what we need to be taught about relationships and how to do them effectively, about our own nervous system and how to recognize the way that our own stuff and stories and past and expectations and insecurities are informing the way that we are reacting or responding. And so when you start to learn more about yourself and about how to show up in real alignment with love, conscious love, not just this feeling of love, but love as an action, and both partners start doing that, then you get it's a practice of accountability, and gradually you shift how you're engaging with one another and the suffering decreases. But in all honesty, we don't work with couples who can't get behind this need for empowered accountability, right? If you're not willing to step into this place where you're looking in a mirror and really able to be honest with how you see how you're showing up and the impact you're having, right? Because you're 50% of the relationship, but you also you do influence your partner. How you act or react is going to have an effect on how they act and react. So how do you change your part? And if people are behind that and they can get that and they can see the value of that, then we get to walk with them on this really powerful journey of learning how to put that into action and use it to really transform their relationship. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes, it answered very well. Thank you so much for the beautiful explanation for this question. Yeah, I hope everyone understand. Thank you so much for joining this Global Virtual Summit Day 3, 2024. So please do join other speaker sessions as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.